Good evening. Tonight we will be reading 5 horrifying night shift scary stories. So, let's begin. Number 1. I worked night audit at this semi-swanky hotel next to the airport. One night I get a call from a lady in 204. She says they were arguing, loud banging and crying coming out of 206. I check the computer. No one is checked into that room due to maintenance issues. What the hell? I called my supervisor to see what to do. She tells me to call on-site security and follow them up with a key. But I decide to be the bigger man and go up anyways. As we get off the elevator, we can hear the crying. It's loud. My heart starts racing as we near the door. So I hand the key to the security guard. The next 5 minutes seem to happen in slow motion. He opens the door and immediately flicks on the light. Keep in mind, 206, we're on the second floor. Only door in was by me. And this is at like 3 AM and there was no one around. As we enter the room, the shower is on. Steam is coming from under the door. There is only one lamp on in the room. It's super cold. And there is a lady in a red lacy bra, black panties with super red hair curled up crying in the bed. She was facing away from us. As Frank approached her, he asked if everything was okay. She sort of stopped crying and rolled over. When she did, a wave of horror came over me. She was super pale, covered in blood, and was just staring behind us. That's when we realized the shower had stopped and the door was open. There was a man about 6'5" and standing in the doorway. As we turned around, cops tased him and arrested him. Turns out he was a rapist who hides in hotel rooms, kidnaps women who stay there, and cuts them open. To this day I will never go to a hotel again. Number 2. I'm currently a janitor at a gym. We have a stairwell that leads down some stairs to a door that doesn't open because we lost the keys years ago. One night, there was a loud banging sound coming from the door. Sounded like someone was banging it every second for a couple minutes. I stood at the top of the stairs and listened and watched, and it stopped. It started up again a few minutes later. I went back up there to see, and it stopped again as soon as I got there. I told my manager the next day and had a locksmith come in. He got the door open and it's just an old supply closet that's empty. Every so often, someone hears a banging sound coming from the door at bottom of the stairs. Number 3. Right out of college, I got a job as a nanny for 2 elementary-aged girls. For their anniversary, the parents went on a week-long cruise and I stayed home with the kids. The first few nights, the 8-year-old would come into my room multiple times a night and wake me up. It was obvious she hadn't pre-planned what she was going to give me a reason for waking me up, so she would stumble through an excuse on the spot like, "I just wanted to make sure we are all still going to the park tomorrow." Or, "I think I forgot to brush my teeth and wondered if I should do it now or wait till the morning." I figured she was just missing her parents and feeling out of sorts, so I let it slide at first. But by the 4th or 5th time, knowing I needed to sleep to keep up with 2 active kids, I told her that she wasn't to wake me up unless there was an emergency. I got a couple more hours of undisturbed sleep. but wake up with a weird feeling around 5 AM. I turn over and nearly wet myself. The girl had brought over a chair right next to the bed and is staring down at me. It didn't help that she had long, dark hair, and this happened a few months after the ring came out. Her explanation, you ask? I just thought it would be fun to watch you sleep. I didn't want to wake you. Number 4. I am a manager at a fast food store on overnight shifts, 11 PM to 7 AM. There is only myself and one person with only the drive-thru open. This particular night around 3 AM, we noticed the back door slightly open. So I went to investigate, and as I moved the door, this man ran towards me. So I shut the door and started to check the rest of the store. Moments later, the drive-thru indicator goes off and we see this person go straight past the window and out of the lane, followed by another 2. They were all motorized wheelchairs. They continued to drive around and around my store, trying to get in the windows. They eventually sat one person at each drive-thru window, shaking them trying to get in. I rang the police and they showed up and told me they couldn't do anything because the 4 people, 3 in wheelchairs and 1 not, told them they just wanted foods, and as no one threatened us, we were fine. It was like a bad horror movie where the people who seem like they are fine actually end up being psycho killers. Number 5. This is probably not what you were expecting, but here we go. I used to work for a relatively small security company. It was privately owned and had about 30 employees altogether. You'd get a contract with a factory, and then basically your job was to sit in that factory for 8 to 12 hours when no one was working in it. So I'd be working by myself, alone, overnight, in a completely empty factory. In my 2 years of doing that job, I never one time saw a single thing I would call supernatural. However, I did see Dennis. One night my captain calls me on my phone and tells me a new trainee will be coming in about 5 AM and to show him the ropes. Teach him how to make rounds. You walk around the building, that's basically what making a round is, and so on. So it's about 4:45 AM and I step outside to the parking lot to have a smoke and wait on the new guy. After about 10 minutes, our car pulls up, stops, backs up, and drives away. I was clearly visible, so I have no idea why he left. But the car passed by about 3 to 4 more times before finally pulling in and shutting off the engine. I can see him in the car and he's just sitting in the driver's seat staring at me. In the back seat are 2 kids, probably around 6 or 8. After about 3 minutes of me wondering what the fuck is going on, he gets out of the car. Dennis is kind of funny looking. He's about 4'10" and a bit fatter than damn near anyone I've ever seen. He has a huge rash covering about 70% of his body with a white crust outlining most of it. He then speaks. Had a little trouble finding the place. His voice is high-pitched. I mean, really high-pitched. I'm talking Judge Doom in the final scene of Who Framed Roger Rabbit high-pitched. Then he extends his hand to shake mine. Without thinking much, I shake it. There's 1 finger on it. 1. And the rest of the hand looks like some kind of stumpy flesh mitten. One of the kids get out of the car, has the same rash, is also very fat, is also missing fingers. He says, "Daddy, can I get a drink?" Dennis turns around and screams in that high-pitched voice, "Get back in that damn car and don't you get out again." I'm in fucking shock, to say the least. So I take the guy around the factory, show him the perimeter, tell him where the emergency stuff is. About a minute into our walk, I notice the guy smells like hell. I mean, he literally reeks of ball sweat and fresh diarrhea. The whole time he's asking me strange questions like, "Do you have a crush on anyone that works here? Or can I hunt in this property?" He finally leaves after standing in the office trying to make small talk with me for about 15 minutes after the tour. On his way out, he said, "We're gonna be good friends, even if you don't think so now." I went home about 2 hours later and stood in the shower for a good solid hour washing myself, trying to get the image of that guy out of my head. Called my captain and asked him to reassign me someplace else. Never had to see him again. That's been more than 10 years now, and it still bothers me to this day. Well, that is it for our 5 horrifying night shift scary stories. As always, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It would really help me out. Anyway, as always, it's been my pleasure.